and welcome to Hot Flush Lawyers, the podcast where we discuss the menopause and its impact with business leaders, healthcare professionals, and other inspirational women who bring to life their personal experiences of the menopause, discuss how times have changed, and share how the menopause has affected them in their lives and careers. Now, over to our two hosts, Clare Thornton and Amanda Gait. We hope you enjoy this episode of Hot Flush Lawyers.
Okay, hi.
Hello.
Hello. So, welcome to Hot Flush Lawyers. This is the first edition of our new podcast in conjunction with Thornton Jones Solicitors in Yorkshire. So, Amanda and I are very nervous about this because we've never done it before, but we'll be fine when we get into it. So we'll just introduce ourselves. So I'm Clare Thornton. I'm the Managing Director of Thornton Jones Solicitors and I'd say, still slightly perimenopausal woman, 53 years old, a lawyer, family lawyer by trade, but currently now managing the firm. And Amanda Gait is my colleague.
Yeah. Do you want me to introduce myself?
You introduce yourself.
So, I'm Amanda. I'm 56. I'm menopausal, definitely well beyond post. I've been at Thornton Jones for nearly 10 years. I'm a lawyer of 32 years qualification and I've done just about everything, and I'm now private client head of department and partner of that department as well, so at Thornton Jones. So I've been doing that. I don't know how many years I've been doing
Feels
that now.
Like a long time.
It does feel a long time, but it's not the full 10 years, is it? Because
No.
I was mediating before that. So so that's me.
So for people that don't understand private client, that's wills and probate.
Wills, probate, estate planning, tax, trusts, powers of attorney, anything to do with your private affairs.
And death.
And death,
Always good.
Always good, yeah.
So, so we decided that we were going to do some podcast recording because that's the trendy thing to do these days. And
we like to talk.
we like to talk, yeah. Amanda and I like to talk quite a lot. And one of the things that we talk about a lot is
The menopause.
So we came up with a great title of Hot Flush Lawyers because, speaks for itself, that's what we are. But the intention is that we will bring in other people to our podcasts, other women, maybe other men as well, people that might be experts, people that might be experiencing menopause, perimenopause, postmenopause.
Yeah.
And sort of particularly around how it affects women in their professional lives.
Yeah.
It's because we are both women in our professional capacities. So it'll develop over time and we'll go from there. So let's start with what we always talk about, our own personal journeys. Do you want to start, Amanda? Tell me about when did you first notice them?
I don't think I actually did notice it. I think other people noticed it before I did. And looking back, probably around about the time I started at Thornton Jones, about 10 years ago, I was perimenopausal. And with hindsight's a great thing, isn't it? But at the time, I didn't recognise any of the signs, and to be honest with you, nobody talked about it back then, so I didn't really know what many of the signs were, if I'm honest with you. So the things that were unusual for me were the constant headaches. I just had constant headaches. I had issues with my periods, but I just put that down to issues with my periods, and I was seeing a gynecologist at the time, and they were talking about a hysterectomy. There was no talk of menopause or anything of that nature. It was just like, we're going to whip it all out. And
I think we talked about that at your interview, because I think you were telling me you were going to have some time off work for a serious operation.
Yeah, because I think that was one of the things I'd said, that that it was on the cards that I was going to have it, and the symptoms and the other symptoms that then became more prevalent as the years went on for me was anxiety and panic attacks. That's what I had. And the loss of memory, but mainly the panic attacks and the anxiety. The anxiety, the main thing, manifested itself in driving, and again, didn't make any kind of connection with the menopause at all. Made no connection. I remember having a car full of small children, going to the Trafford Centre and just emergency stopping on a hill on the M62, and thinking, "You're going completely bonkers. You need."
What were you thinking?
I just thought, because when it how it manifested itself was going down a hill. Whenever there was a hill, I literally couldn't drive. I had to stop. I felt like I was on a roller coaster and I was out of control, and I'd start with a panic attack. And so there was a hill as there is on the M62 because it goes over the Pennines. There's quite a lot of them. And I stopped with 4 small girls in the back of the car going, "What's going on?"
And were cars beeping all around you?
Yeah,
Oh my
I had
goodness.
to pull over into the hard shoulder, and my daughter, who can't have been very old at the time, it must have been about 10 years ago, so she must be about 10 or 11,
Yeah.
was going, there, Mum, it's all right, you'll be all right.
Oh, God.
And it was just...
Were you crying?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And because I didn't know what was wrong with me.
Yeah.
And for a lot of years, I didn't know what was wrong with me. And I remember having a conversation with you at work once, actually, and sitting there and saying, I know there's something wrong with me. I don't know what it is.
Yeah.
I just don't know what it is.
Yeah, well, you thought you were suffering from some sort of depression or something, didn't you?
Yeah, and it was... And everything in my life just seemed to start... I couldn't make sense of it. And that was the sort of start of it. And I made no connection to the menopause at all, because, as I said, nobody talked about it.
No, they
then,
didn't.
Claire.
10 years ago, they didn't know.
And when even as long ago as 5 or 6 years ago, nobody talks about it. And I think that talking about it at our workplace, which we do a lot,
Yes.
because there's
Mainly
loads of us.
There's loads of us, yeah.
There's loads of us. It's been a revelation, because hearing what other people encounter and the symptoms that other people have, and the way that they suffer with different symptoms.
It's unbelievable. It's so
It's
different,
just
isn't it?
Bizarre. Like this a lady at work, and I'd never heard of this, and apparently this is a symptom where you can touch things, you get electric shocks all the time.
I've heard about people. I don't get that, but I've heard
And she was just getting constant electric shocks off things.
yeah, and I've known people who've had the left shoulder pain seems to be a thing, or arm pain. I've known 2 or 3 people who've had to go for heart checks because they're getting pains in the left arm, and the hearts are fine, and it's a symptom of the menopause. It's unbelievable. It's so varied. That's the problem with it, isn't it? I think.
Well, I think it is, and I think way back because I'm obviously I'm older than you, so I started before you with the symptoms. The reality was that it was a bit of a comedy thing, the menopause.
Yeah.
It was that sort of, hot flush. I know we're called hot flush lawyers, and it is a bit of a laugh and everything like that. But it was sort of like, are you having a hot flush, love?
Yeah, it was.
And that was the end of it.
Yeah.
And it was very dismissive. And I think that certainly since I've come through all this, and I don't know whether or not I don't know whether it's something that you've witnessed as well, because you're still perimenopausal, aren't you? So you started that journey. That I've seen a change in how it's just
viewed?
Accepted. It's accepted. It's an accepted thing. It's something that half of the population go through, and we need, and it's accepted.
Yeah. Now. Well, I mean, people like Davina have done an amazing job, haven't they, in making it acceptable, having it on the telly, talking about all the detail they've got into. It's been fabulous, and thank goodness, because it used to really upset me to see. You think about the generation before us, and well before that as well, women who were really brilliant women just lost to the workplace, because if you were going through those things you're describing, how could you continue running a firm, running a business, or you would just and they just faded into the background and disappeared off, didn't they? As written off society as old women, and yet there's so much we can still bring to the workplace, absolutely vital stuff. That now isn't lost, hopefully.
I hope so, because I think there's a much better understanding of it. I know that professionally, again, one of the things that I had was this immense self-doubt that I just couldn't do my job, that I just couldn't. I suddenly was sat at my desk and thinking, I haven't got a clue what I'm doing.
No.
I haven't got a clue what I'm doing. it actually led me to change what I did, which to a certain extent was a really, really positive thing for me, because obviously I went from doing family law, I went to do wills and probate, which was a massive change. But
that was an amazingly brave thing to do when you look back at it, given what you were going through at the time. You put your head above the parapet and volunteer, because we were struggling to recruit, weren't we? From what I remember. And given the anxieties and the self-doubt that you were suffering, it was amazingly brave to do that.
Yeah.
And you've studied since, and it's amazing.
Yeah. But I think looking back at it, back then, it wasn't a brave decision, because I thought, I don't have to go to court anymore.
Yeah,
I was really struggling with that. I just don't know what I'm doing, and I'm sat in front of a judge now, and I don't know what to say to this judge, and they're looking at me and they're thinking I'm an idiot, and you have all of those thoughts going through your head. And so to make that change to a sort of non-confrontational area of law, to a certain extent, I probably was very naive in that I thought, oh, it's just writing wills. I didn't realise that I'd have to do 2 million exams, etc. No. But it was the best thing I did. But I think looking back, it was part and parcel of that upheaval that I was having as going through the menopause.
Yeah, because in those days, no one did talk about it. So I can remember going to court probably maybe 4 or 5 years ago. So I guess when people were talking about it more, and forgetting the name of the child that I was talking about. And I couldn't for the life of me remember it.
I forget my own children.
Exactly. Exactly. And I was sitting in a room full of other lawyers and clients and the judge, and I don't know. I started to try and say the name, and I just couldn't remember it. We all know what that's like.
Yeah.
And I ended up just saying, I'm really sorry, I can't remember the name of the child. I'm perimenopausal. And the judge was like, it was a female judge, fortunately, and she laughed and joined in with me and helped me out with the name. But
you wouldn't have been able to say that a few years before.
No,
you
exactly.
wouldn't have been able to say it. There wouldn't have been that acknowledgement. So I do think there's been a massive movement in a positive direction just by talking about it.
Yeah, exactly. And then us being brave enough to call it out when you can't remember the name, or you can't, or you feel you're having a moment and you just got to stop.
Yeah, and you can't remember what comes next in the sentence, which is quite happens a lot. Or you don't know where your makeup is, like this morning. Put my makeup somewhere and I can't find it.
I wonder what you've done with it. Very strange.
I don't know.
It's usually in the fridge or somewhere.
Well, it will be. It'll be somewhere strange. So I've had to dig some old makeup out that's out of date.
Well, we didn't know we were being filmed as well, did we? So we weren't really expecting that. But anyway, that's fine. Yeah, no, it's very strange. I didn't suffer from anxieties in the way that you're describing. I did suffer from terrible heart palpitations.
Oh yes, I remember you saying
that. I just used to sit in front of the telly and my heart would just start racing, which then makes you feel anxious because you think you're having a heart attack, don't you?
Yeah.
And I guess I did have a few moments of.
Didn't you have an incident at the theatre or something?
Oh God, yeah. I'd forgotten about. Maybe I was more anxious then. Yeah, we went to the pantomime at Christmas, and we were. It was at York Theatre Royal, and my daughter had been in the pantomime the year before. She'd been in it, so we were quite comfortable with the theatre. But we were going to watch it. There were loads of us going, and we were late, so we were running to get there, which then gets you in a kerfuffle anyway, doesn't it? Because you get hot and sweaty and hot and bothered, as we used to say. And we were on right at the top in the galleries. Oh my God! And I couldn't walk across the blooming, because I'm not very good with heights anyway. No, but that's got a lot worse.
Yeah,
menopausally. And I couldn't get. I was crying and holding on to every person.
Oh, like strangers?
Yeah, strangers. Yeah. And the pantomime had started, so it was pitch black. Oh God, it was awful. So I just held everyone's hand as I walked across. So eventually sat down and then just cried.
Was that because you were at a height?
Yes.
Oh right. Okay.
Yeah, and I have this rational fear that I'm going to throw myself off if I'm on a height.
Yeah, I know what you mean.
It's just crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
It happens all the time. But it was also the heat and the whole kerfuffleness of the situation. Yeah, I do. Yeah, thanks for reminding me of that.
Sorry, bringing up that trauma.
I'm saying I wasn't anxious at all, but obviously I was anxious. No, I was a bit. And I do sort of understand that feeling of not knowing what you're doing. Because first of all, I got HRT when I was 49, I think, so 4 years ago, which worked brilliantly for me, and we'll talk about HRT a lot, I'm sure. That did seem to sort all that out. But also, I'm in a position where, as the sort of leader of the firm, that I hadn't really got a choice about doing things. I've had to force myself to do things, to take on the leadership and to run with it. Even though, I think I probably was a bit anxious at first about that and about pushing myself out of my comfort zone. But I do think that's one of the things that women do quite well. Is because I don't know whether it's just women, but we're talking about women, so we'll say it's just women.
Just us.
That you push yourself because you've got no choice. Because as a mother or as a parent, I think there's times even before the menopause hits us where you might feel a bit like am I out of my depth in this situation?
Yeah.
But because you've got your children with you, you sort of push yourself through it, like you're describing with your, In some ways, it makes it worse having children, though, because you think you live your fears through them as well. You have to worry about them all the time, don't you? And but heights are terrible. I'm terrible with the kids when they're up high. That makes me feel even worse.
Has it got worse then?
Yeah. Oh, I can't look at them standing on a edge of a cliff or a York walls. Always scares the life out of me. And if they're in front of me, even now, I mean, they're grown up virtually, aren't they? Youngest is 16. We haven't said about our children. We'll talk about that in a minute. But watching them up high makes me worse than myself being up high, which is.
And hasn't HRT evened that out then?
Not really, no. Well, that might be a separate thing. I can remember my mum I used to laugh at my mum when I was younger because I can remember her crawling across a bridge to get to the art gallery in London. The Tate, is it, across the there's that quite wobbly suspension bridge.
Yes.
I can remember watching her literally crawling on her hands and knees across there.
Poor thing.
And I laughed when I was younger at her. And then slowly, I don't know whether that's a having children thing, where you do get frightened about stuff a bit more, don't you? But gradually over the years, my fear of heights has got worse. So I was in Barcelona this weekend with my girlfriends, and they were laughing at me because they all know they just hold my hand and they help me around to places now because we're up somewhere high in that park thing. That hasn't gone away really, but I don't know whether that's just something that's happened through older age. But then I guess that's what menopause is.
I think it is. I think that the anxiety side of things was the thing that I was treated for first, because I didn't get HRT for years. I didn't get it.
No, you were on antidepressants or something like that.
Yeah, anti-anxiety tablets, and I was very much that I wasn't going to take HRT because at the time I still thought that it was made out of animal products, and so I wasn't going to go there.
Yeah, because you're a vegetarian.
Yeah, so I wasn't going to go there with it because there was this, when it was first developed, it was horses' urine or something, pregnant horses' urine or something, and I thought I'm just not doing that because I just don't agree with how it's collected. Yeah. So, I think when you went on to HRT, and obviously friends and other people that I know were all going on it, I thought I'm going to read up about it a bit more rather than being listening to the old stuff about HRT, that you're going to get breast cancer, you're going to get this, you're going to get the other, and so I did a lot more reading, and it's synthetic plant-based.
Yes.
Now, so there's nothing in it that's animal based.
No.
So certainly the one that I take isn't.
No, that's right. I think it all is, and I think that's reduced the risk of breast cancer quite significantly because it's not.
I think as well, doesn't it? As well, it assists with regards to Alzheimer's.
We might get a doctor in at one point for one of our future podcasts. I'm looking at my papers to see.
It reduces the risk of Alzheimer's, even though we can't remember anything. To be frank, I think it does, doesn't it?
I think it does, and the risk of heart disease and the risk of osteoporosis, which is, of course, osteoporosis has been a massive problem for older women.
Absolutely.
You think about all the ladies that you used to see, well, you still do see, that are, they're falling. I mean, and they break bones just like that because they've got osteoporosis. So, I mean, I think there's so many benefits to HRT, and I think there is a slight increased risk. I think I read the first 5 years, no increased risk. And then after that, slightly increased. But they screen you all the time for breast cancer now, don't they? I mean, we get our boobs slammed in those horrible... That's a whole other story.
Yeah. I think that when I was reading it, the risk is sort of like... It's like ridiculously low, the increased risk of it. It's been hyped out of all proportion, really. So, you know, as with any kind of medication that you're taking, there's a risk. Whatever you take, there's going to be a risk because you're introducing something that's artificial into your body, so there's going to be a risk. But the benefits outweigh the risks.
Yeah, absolutely.
And as I say, I'm now menopausal and I've never felt better. I've never felt better.
Are you on HRT now then?
I'm on HRT, but I'm still on the anti-anxiety because I can't drive without them. I've come off them and I turned into blubbering wreck on the motorway again. So I can't...
That's really common. I had to drive this weekend to East Midlands Airport because there's 6 of us went and only 2 of us would drive.
I know.
Because the other 4 are really not confident, especially in the dark.
Yeah.
And I know that I'm not brilliant. I don't love it in the dark.
Yeah.
And the torrential rain that was happening on the way back from the airport. But I'm all right. But I do think that's a really common...
I think it is. I think it's more common than people let on. I mean, obviously, they're not going to do an emergency stop on the M62 like I did generally, but hopefully. But, I mean, mine was was extreme and... you know, to the point where it was even when I was sat in the front seat of a car and somebody was going downhill. So my husband was driving. I was like, you're going to have to stop. I'm not going down this hill. I can't do this. I can't go down this hill. We're not going down.
Because you felt like you were going to...
I just felt like we were out of control and we were going to crash. And I couldn't really... Even now, I can't really describe the feeling. It is just irrational. And I know it's irrational because I can keep saying to myself, you're being an idiot. But the it's a proper panic attack that I get, and so without this medication, I can't drive, and in the job I do and I do, I need to drive.
Yeah, of course.
And to be frank, even if I didn't do the job, just in life, I need to drive.
Well, we live in. We don't live in London where we can get around.
Yeah, so I can't live without it. So I'm on HRT and I'm on the anti-anxiety, so which is monitored. It's monitored quite carefully all the time. Every 6 months, the doctor phones me up and says, "Have you had any suicidal thoughts?"
Oh God,
not today.
Not in the last
week, maybe, but not today. But then but it's the same with HRT. They monitor that as well, so it's just monitored all the time.
Have you tried coming off it then? And they came back.
I've come off it,
right.
And when I started with HRT, I thought I'll just go on the HRT now, and I'll come off this. No, it was just as bad. It was just as bad. It was awful. So
that's interesting then. So you need a combination of it.
I've got a combination of it, and it's I don't know what the HRT does for me, but I feel well with it. I don't have patches. I just have
the gel.
I just have a tablet. Because I'm menopausal, you see, so I just have a constant tablet. I take one tablet a day, and that's it.
Is that estrogen and progesterone then in one tablet?
I have no idea.
Don't you know?
I don't know. I didn't look into it. The doctor gave me it, and I was like, yeah, go on then, I'll take it. I don't think so because I'm menopausal. So it's so I
maybe you don't need the progesterone then anymore.
No, I think it's. No, I don't think it is. I don't think it's got anything. I might have to have a look at that.
We'll get your doctor in.
We'll get a doctor in. I'll bring the notes in. I'll bring the notes in from the tablets. But do you have patches then?
No, I have the estrogen in a gel. Well, I was just saying to Rich, our colleague, this morning, that I like the gel because you can control it a little bit. So, like if I'm having, my biggest symptom was sweating, night sweats in particular, which meant I didn't sleep. Because it would wake me up, dripping down my nose and down my boobs, and disgusting. It's horrible having to get up and put a towel down on your bed and then change your bedding, and and that worked. The HRT really, really worked for that very quickly. But sometimes now I get like not a sweat, but I wake up hot in the night sometimes, and then I can have three pumps of gel. For a few days,
right, okay.
So I normally take 2 pumps, but sometimes I take 3 if I feel like I need to because I'm having.
And what do you do with it? Just rub it in?
Yeah, it's just a pump thing and you rub it on your inner thigh.
Wow, that's
every day.
a bit-
So that's your estrogen, and then the progesterone, which is the bit that you have to. Well, it gives you a period for a while, so it's quite hard to know, I think, because I was still having periods when I started, so perimenopausal. But then the progesterone makes your womb lining shed, so that gives you in effect a fake period.
Yeah.
So I was back to having periods every month. I'd gone really erratic before that. You'd have 6 weeks without one, and then every 2 weeks. And that carried on for a while. And then I said to the doctor, well, when should I... Because I thought when you were post-menopause, you'd take one... Oh, hold on a minute. I've forgotten. No, when I first went on it, I had to take my progesterone tablets for 2 weeks out of 4. So you didn't take it. So you just had estrogen for all the time, and then progesterone 2 weeks out of 4. And then that will give you then a period. So then I was like, well, at what point do you then change that to every day? Because I knew that menopausal women took it every day.
Yeah.
The progesterone, 1 tablet every day.
Yeah, that's what I do.
Right. So then they didn't seem to know the answer to that. So I just did it myself. And now I'm definitely nearly out. I think I'm...
You've got to be 2 years free of a period.
Yeah, well, I'm not 2 years free. I'm not even 1 year free. I think I'm getting there, and then something happens, but it's not like a proper period anymore. It's like... This is very limited to brownie stuff. It's not... Yeah.
Oh, no, well, that's not a proper one.
No, it's not
Just
exactly.
a bit of a shed.
So who knows whether I'm perimenopausal, postmenopausal, or menopausal or what, but I take a progesterone tablet every day and my estrogen gel. And then the other hormone that I was taking was testosterone, which was amazing. But they don't give you that on the NHS.
Oh, where did you get that from? China?
I did get They will give you it if you... I had to have a blood test. My testosterone levels were low. I had to have a consultant at the hospital. The doctors were brilliant, and they contacted the consultant, and she said, yes, your levels are low enough to have testosterone. So I had to pay for it. It doesn't come on your prescription, your free, your cheap prescription. So they could prescribe it to me, but not for free. So that's fine. I paid for it, and that was brilliant. That was a tiny little sachet. It's quite frightening because it tells you in big letters all over the place, this is for male use only.
Yeah, so what did they give it for?
Well, when you Google it, it's used for female as well, but you use... So one, packet, you take... It lasts you 8 days. So you take an eighth of the packet. The males would have a whole packet every day.
Yeah.
So it's a tiny, tiny bit of testosterone, because you do lose testosterone. And that impacts your libido and also your energy levels, I think. So when I was taking that, oh my God, it was amazing. We're not going to talk about sex, but it was amazing. But also I was so strong and energized with it. In fact, Rich, who's in the room with us now, is also a PT, and I can remember him saying to me one day, because he was watching me, I was doing push-ups or whatever, and I could do 60. I felt like I was on fire, and he said, "You're really strong at the moment." I said, "I know I am." Anyway, I felt brilliant. I suppose I felt like a man must feel. Must be nice, mustn't it?
Nice, yes.
But I did feel brilliant. But then they do monitor it carefully, and then they said, your levels are too high now.
Oh.
I've got to stop taking it. I was like, no!
Oh.
I can't. I said, can't I just cut back on it? No, they made me stop. And then they retested me after 3 months, and my levels were still normal. And they retested me 3 months later, my levels are still normal, so I'm not on that now. But I would say to anybody who is feeling that HRT is doing, it's great, it's sorted out a lot of other things, but HRT is hormone replacement, isn't it? And so you have 3 hormones, and I don't know why testosterone isn't the routine one prescribed. I guess because women's levels must vary, and not everyone does lose testosterone, but
you might get a hairy chest, might you?
Well, I did get hairy legs.
Did you?
Yeah.
Oh.
So you put it on your inner thigh, and it does say to you, basically, yes, my thigh hair became thicker, but at the end of the day,
who cares?
I would just shave that off. Exactly. And I started getting ear hair. No, I didn't really. Nose hairs. My voice dropped a few octaves. I started shouting at the telly a lot, but No, I didn't. I'm joking.
Did you want to change tyres and stuff?
Yes, time getting all butch. No, I didn't. But I could, yeah. And I know somebody else that's taken it at our workplace. I won't say her name because she might not want us to talk about it. But she's. It's like your hair on your thighs gets more bristly. I don't think you get
Like
any
a
more.
beard?
Yeah, like a thick, more of a male hair. And I guess that's inevitable, isn't it? But men lose testosterone as they get older. That's why they shout at the telly all the time. Because
Is that right?
I don't know. I'm joking.
Is that why they get long
Yeah.
hair then?
They do lose testosterone. I think it's a fact. That's why they produce this testosterone for men.
Yeah.
And so some men, I think, do struggle with, people, they take Viagra a lot of the time, but it's because they're losing testosterone. Not all men. We know some men, don't we, that are...
What's the benefits of us taking testosterone, women, then? Is it just that libido
I think
side
so,
of thing?
yeah. But at the end of the day, of course, you're getting older, nature is taking its course. We can't have children, can we? So
Thank God.
Your libido, thank God, libido is going to drop a bit because that's nature's way of saying you're done with children.
Yeah.
But it definitely helped libido and energy levels. That was the other thing.
Yeah.
Energy levels.
Yeah, well, that is a big thing, isn't it? As you go through the menopause, your energy levels do drop. But
Yeah.
I think sometimes whether that's the menopause or whether or not I'm 56 years of age.
Yeah, exactly.
But I think that sometimes, certainly I've noticed a difference coming out of the perimenopausal stage and being menopausal and having that sort of settled health.
Yes.
I felt a whole lot better. The only thing that really, really annoys me now with the change that I've had to my body and everything else is the fact that I can't lose weight.
Yeah, everyone says that, don't they?
And I've gone from an hourglass figure to a Teletubby.
I know, it's that
And
waist
it's that
thing,
big
yeah.
waist, and I've got and I woke up the other morning and I thought, well, I know I'm not pregnant, but I certainly look like I am.
Oh, really?
But it's that element of not being able. It doesn't matter what I do, I can't lose weight.
No.
And so that's the biggest thing for me. That being menopausal, that it used to take me, if I wanted to shed some weight, I'd exercise for a few weeks, I'd go on a proper diet and I'd lose a couple of stone and it'd be great. I've been on a diet and I've been exercising for about 2 years and I put 2 pounds on it. When we went on that walk the other week, the first thing I did, I'd done 18 miles. I thought, I'm going to weigh myself. I'll definitely have lost some weight. I put 3 pounds on. I'm like, how can that be fair?
That'll be water retention or something, won't it? Yeah.
Yeah, but...
Oh, I know what you mean, though, and I do think, you see, women, you thicken round the waist. I don't understand why. We definitely need to get some sort of an expert on to tell us about why. Because what is the purpose of that?
I don't know, because I can't get rid of it.
No, I know.
I can't get rid of it. My PT, I've got a PT, Rich, who just says, surgery.
Oh, great. Chop it off.
He says, well, you've got some muscle underneath there, but, short of you starving yourself and exercising 3 or 4 hours every day, it's going to be really difficult to do it because your metabolism's not burning it off anymore.
No.
And it does gather round here.
It does, and and you can't understand it because given that we can't have children anymore, you'd think it was sort of designed to protect something internally, wouldn't it? That when you're pregnant, obviously you get a huge belly, don't you? But what is the point of getting a thick layer of fat around your middle?
I have read about what it is, but I can't remember.
Obviously.
Remember why it is, but that's the most annoying part about it because I train now 3 times a week. I do weight training, I do weightlifting, so health wise I would say that I'm probably the healthiest I've ever been, but I'm probably the fattest I've ever been as well.
But I think we have to just focus on being strong and being healthy and being fit as we approach our middle. I'm going to say we're middle-aged, but probably...
I'm well past middle-aged.
Well, who says what middle-aged is? 50's the new 40, 60's the new 50.
I as I said, I feel more comfortable now with myself than I've ever done.
Yeah. I think that's the great thing about being menopausal, is that you lose that... You do care about what the people think about you, but you care about hurting somebody's feelings, or you care about... You want to be a kind, but you don't care... you brush things off easier, I think,
I think you
than
do.
you would have, that you used to worry about as a younger person. That, you know, what do I look when we've both got younger females in our
Yes.
lives. But I've got 3 girls.
3 girls, yeah.
Molly, who's 27, nearly 28. God,
Is she? Molly?
Yeah, she'll be 28 at Christmas. Yeah.
Wow.
Anna, who's 26 next month.
Oh.
And Lucy, who's just turned 18.
Bless.
And then I've got Tom, who's 16.
Oh,
bless him,
bless him.
surrounded in our house with lots of
females.
hormonal women. But, you know, the things that they worry about, and you've got Alice, who's how old?
Alice is 22 in a fortnight.
Oh, God.
I know. So,
Frightening, isn't it?
yeah.
But the things that they worry about, obviously they worry about their looks more than anything, don't they? And that, you know, society creates that, and that's a whole other podcast subject, isn't it? Which we might come onto at some point. But you want to look nice, of course you do. I want to look nice. I'm sure you do. You worry about where your makeup is, but it's because you want to look. You look presentable, don't you? But I think what's presentable to us at our age is different from what it is to the younger ones.
But I think I do it for me. I don't do it for other people, which I think you do when you're younger. You do it because you think that people are going to judge you if you don't look a particular way.
Yeah.
I don't care.
No.
Now, I look the way I look for me. Some days that's pretty awful. Some days it's okay.
Yeah.
But if I'm okay with it, I don't care. And I think that's the difference that I have.
Right.
That I do it for me now rather than what other people think I should be or think I should look like. Yeah, I still have hang-ups. Like I've said, I've got massive hang-ups about my belly and everything else. But I'm much more comfortable in my skin than I've ever been.
Yeah.
And I think that's the good thing about the menopause. I do think it allows you to look inwardly at yourself, because you can't do anything else but look inwardly because you're having all of these symptoms. And hopefully for most people, by the time you come out of it, you've looked at yourself and you've grown from it and you feel a better person as a result. I would hope. I would hope, because that's what's happened to me, certainly.
Yeah, like a second coming.
It does. I feel a lot better than I've ever felt. I feel more comfortable. Touch wood. I feel a lot more comfortable with my just with every day, really. And I think that comes with that acknowledgement that, you know, there are going to be people in the day that I meet that aren't going to like me. Some are going to like me, and I can't necessarily change that. So I've just got to be me.
Yeah,
and I think that's
quite freeing.
It is freeing. It is freeing. You still have hang-ups when you're in menopause, but I think that it's once you've come through it, I think that you have had to look at yourself over a long period of time and address issues that you have. And I think that by doing that, it does help. And I think it also allows you to be a lot freer and a lot easier on yourself.
Yeah.
And I think I think it's kinder to ourselves. And because we think, well, you've been through all of that and you're still here and you're still doing it.
Well, and I think when you've been through the things you've been through, and I'd say your menopause was probably harsher than mine has been. But when you have been through that, you sort of think, this is brilliant. To feel good when you've felt so bad.
Yes.
And to feel most of the time not anxious anymore, and most of the time confident in your own skin, like you've described.
Yeah.
You know, if you hadn't been through that, you wouldn't appreciate, I guess, where you've come to now. And so that in itself is empowering, really, and not caring so much about pleasing other people.
Do you think that it affected your family? Have they said anything about it?
Yeah, I think that I was not very tolerant but I had 4 children in the house at the time, I guess.
Yeah.
Because I suppose the girls were still at home then, the big 2. I can't remember. I do remember them. I think it was probably the big girls when they were teenagers saying, "Oh, you're always ratty. You're always shouting at us."
Yeah.
And I probably was, and I probably didn't think that was a menopause. I just thought that was because I've got 4 kids and
you're
a
working
job
full time,
and all that.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe a bit. I think I noticed myself more being more tolerant once I got the HRT and
Yeah.
you know, you don't realise, do you, I suppose, till you come out of it. I know you had it was your family that, and your work colleagues, I think, but probably your family. What was
My
that?
family were, I mean, I've asked them since, really, because, as you say, when you're in it, you don't see it.
No.
And certainly my husband has said that, you know, I'm a different person to what I was a few years ago, and that he was the same as me, really, didn't necessarily understand or have any information about what it was that I was going through, so thought that I turned into some sort of psycho. You know, I remember being in a car once and screaming at him because we were going downhill, and he was like, "You need to help. You need to go and see somebody. You clearly have something wrong with you." And I was like, "Well, that's not helpful," you know, and the usual argument, etc., about me having panic attacks. So I think he found it difficult to sort of work out what was going on, because this person that he'd been with for 30 odd years was suddenly a different person. And I remember being very, very, very short and very irritated with the children as well. And looking back, I feel quite guilty about that, because that was because obviously I had my children in my 30s, and so it was a bit like I was going through it at a period of time where probably they could have done without their mum biting their heads off at something and being a bit more understanding. But and coming through it now, I do sometimes with my older one, my lad who's 26, he, you know, he'll say things to me and you can see that he's expecting me to snap, because that's what he always got. But when he gets sort of like okay, that's all right, that's fine. You can see he's a bit, okay, that's not what you used to be like. Really? And so it's, maybe I'm just reading too much into it, but you do sort of, I do feel a slight amount of guilt that I didn't know what was happening, so I didn't do anything about it, and I just thought that they were being annoying, and I was overworked and tired, and that it was their problem, not my problem. And I think my family, certainly my husband, has said that, you know, he's seen a massive change, that I'm a different person, back to the old person that I used to be. Probably better than I used to be frank. Because I'm more confident in myself now, and that's the thing.
And you haven't got young children. I mean, it's stressful, isn't it, when you've got young children, and you know, there are pressures on you that you haven't got now. Life's, and you're more financially secure once the children are off your hands, or getting off your hands. There are a lot less pressures, so you can be your best self, I suppose. That's what we want to be.
It is, and so I think that as far as my family's concerned, I think that the kids probably would never look at it and think, oh, she was just going through the menopause. They'll just think that she was ratty. She was a ratty, naggy mother at the time, but she was working full time and we were awful. I hope that's how they think of it. But I think that my husband probably took the brunt of it more than anything, and it's surprising, as I said to you, I think before we started, that in his work he's starting to recognise other ladies that are starting down that path, and he's then saying, you know, I've been through this with my wife. It's clear to me that you are going through this process. Do you need help? Do you need support? Do you need to talk to somebody? So I think
it's really hard for men to say that to women that they're not married to. Do you know what I mean? I think that must be, you must be treading on eggshells. Are you the first person that's going to say to a woman, are you menopausal? Are you menopausal?
Because she might stab
She might, It's a very dangerous occupation.
No, I'm just having a bad day and you're not making it better. But I do think that I think it's recognisable now. And I think a lot of men now are, because we talk about it more than we did, and it's less of a taboo subject.
I think some men would say we talk about it too much.
I think they probably do, and I think they probably think, "Oh my God, I'm sick to death of hearing about it." But do you know what? Get over it. We need to talk about it.
Yeah, we do. And I've got friends who really don't like to talk about it.
Don't they?
Oh yeah, but people who are not having any symptoms, they always say, I'm not having any symptoms. I'm fine, and they get very
like that.
Very cross about having discussions. Oh, you talk about it as menopause. I think once you do start to have symptoms, it's really helpful to talk about it because, as we said at the beginning, symptoms are so varied. But you don't feel so like you're going mad, and it's just you that's experiencing this. And it always surprises me when women are. I can think of a few who really don't want to talk about it. But they will.
They will. I mean, the thing that because when I was going through it, it was just a chance discussion with somebody who I knew vaguely, and I was in the line for a coffee at Coffee Nero or wherever it was, or Costa or somewhere, and we were just having a chat, and I'd said to her, "Oh, how are you doing?" And she said, "Oh, well, I've been through it." I said, What do you mean?" And she said, my husband took me to be tested for Alzheimer's. I said, "What?" And she said, "I kept forgetting things. I kept all of these things." And she started describing these symptoms that she had. And I thought, that's me. Yeah. That's me. And she kept saying, "Oh, and I had this, and I had this, and I had this." And she says, "Oh, and it turns out it's the menopause, and I'm on HRT, and I feel fabulous." And it was like a light bulb moment for me at that point, because her saying those things to me, it was like, that's me.
That is me, yeah.
That's me. And it actually prompted me then to go to the doctor. And even then I was slightly in denial, because I was like, it's going to be something else. I'm going to have some sort of really rare illness. And I started reeling off the symptoms. And again, the doctor then said to me, he went, "How old are you?" And I went, "Don't say it's the menopause." I went, "It's the menopause. Hello." But actually, that was very freeing, having somebody say to me, "Actually, you're normal.
Perfectly normal.
You're normal. You're not going mad. You're not losing your mind."
Yeah.
And I think so with women being able to talk to one another, people might get sick of it, and younger women might get sick of it. But actually, they don't know how much they're benefiting from us talking about it.
Yeah, their generation's going to be...
Well, they're going to think they're going to sail through it, because they're going to spot it straight away.
Because I think they're saying you should take HRT as soon as you start to get any symptoms, which can be very commonly in people's early 40s.
Absolutely,
that's amazing.
Yeah,
because most of us didn't take it till we were either in the menopause or past it, did we? And they also say that you can take it for as long as forever if you want.
I think you can take it. You can take it for as long as you want to. I know that there's I can't remember who it was. It was somebody who was famous.
We should count the amount of times we say we can't remember something.
And she was, and she's a sort of pensioner age, and she's still taking HRT. And she's like, "I'm not going to stop taking it until I die."
Yeah, because there's no. I don't think there's any disadvantage to taking it. It might just. I mean, you wonder whether it still works when you're older. Because it doesn't stop. It doesn't make your periods go on forever. It stops your periods. So, you do stop having periods. So it's therefore.
But it'll keep your hormone levels at a level so that you're not getting that massive dip. And I really feel for the generations before us that didn't do it, or had the fear of taking the medication to a certain extent, which I still had at the beginning. So what they went through, and I remember my mum sitting sometimes and just crying, and I'd be like, "What are you crying for?" And thinking back, actually, that's just come to me now. Thinking back, she had the same fear of driving.
Oh, did she?
Because when it was my graduation at the university, and she point blank refused to drive. We all had to go on the train, and she just sat there crying, saying, "I can't do it. I can't drive."
Oh, that's interesting.
But
Sheila just stopped driving, you see.
She did. She stopped driving.
Yeah.
She stopped driving at that point and didn't drive
again. Whereas you've been able to carry on driving because you've got HRT. We're so lucky from that point of view. But I think our generation of people, we've been lucky. Oh, we could talk forever, couldn't we? But if you think about our younger years and how it's formed who we are now, I don't think that we would put up with the stuff that the generation before us put up with, fading into the background, stopping work, stopping driving, all those things. It'll be interesting to see how the women in our 50s now, how we develop once we're in our 70s and 80s. Will we? I think we'll have our own communities of fun.
We won't put up with any of that. I think that
my mum describes feeling invisible.
Yes.
Which I know a lot of women feel like.
Yes.
But I'm not prepared to feel invisible. I don't think as we go forwards.
I'm not invisible.
No, I'm definitely not. And I see what my mum means. I'll give you a story. We were in Dubai with my family, the wider family, and she was telling us how she felt invisible. And we there must have been 15 of us sitting around a table in a restaurant. And she literally just told us this story, and then the waiter came over, took everyone's orders, and missed people out. Totally missed her out.
Oh no, poor love.
And she went, there you go. And I thought, yeah, but I would have gone,
I would have.
Excuse me.
Hang on a minute, you've forgotten me.
Yeah, exactly. But that generation, so they're the generation that went, well, don't blame them for it, but, HRT is bad for you, we'll accept that, and we'll just all suffer and disappear into the background, and we'll become invisible. And I don't think our generation as a whole will allow that to happen. There'll be people that will within our generation and people that won't. But I think, the other day I was hearing about this new thing where people are, there are clubs, daytime clubs that have been invented by people our age, with playing all 80s music and stuff.
Oh, yes, I've heard of
where
them,
where you go out during the day, you're home at a reasonable time, and you're having a great time.
Yeah,
we create that ourselves because we're not prepared to stop going out.
Yeah,
you just don't want to go out night clubbing anymore.
No,
I'm not sure the young people do anymore.
No.
I feel for their generation because I don't think they've got. The 80s were just amazing, weren't they?
Yes.
And even they will say we had the best music, the best.
Yeah,
we didn't have mobile phones and all the awful things that they've got to deal with now.
But we had a lot of other things that we fought for
that they're benefiting.
They're now taking the benefit of, and I think that's what makes us stronger women and not prepared to accept the things that other generations used to accept. And I mean, I was having a conversation with Yasmin at work the other day, and I said, when I started as a solicitor, women weren't allowed to wear trousers.
Yeah.
And she looked at me like I was a complete idiot. She says, what do you mean? I said, they weren't allowed to wear trousers. We weren't allowed to go into court with trousers on. They wouldn't hear you if you had trousers on. And she was just like, it just doesn't compute. And I said, that's just was normal.
No, yeah.
It was normal. We've had to fight for everything that we have in this profession. Yeah. And it's made us stronger. But I think also, feeding into the menopause and the HRT things, I think going through what we had to go through in our professional life made us not accept things the same as generations before, which to a certain extent I think possibly means that we didn't just accept the menopause and go, actually, I'm just going to accept this and I'm going to fade into the corner. It's more of a, I'm not having this.
Yeah.
I'm not having this. I want more out of my life. I've had to fight to get to the point that I'm at, and I'm not going to allow a change in my hormones to stop that.
No, absolutely. I think that's right. And as we said before, that people like Davina McCall, you can't thank them enough really, because they were willing to put their heads above the parapet and go out on telly and say, this isn't right.
Yeah.
And I mean, going back to that weight thing, she looks amazing.
Yeah, but she doesn't eat, does she? She doesn't eat.
Yeah, but even if we don't,
she doesn't eat sugar. I mean, who can do that? Who's not going to eat sugar? I love a donut.
Well, a glass of wine, more the point.
Oh, yeah.
Because there's loads of sugar in Welsh alcohol. Yeah, I know.
Yeah, I mean, there's
a balance, isn't there?
There's a balance, and I think that I was thinking about it the other day that you've got to have have we talked for 55 minutes? Jesus. I do think that one of the things that you do get to the point of with regards to sort of professional and the other side of things is that you learn that there is a balance, and you've got to have the right balance in life, the work, the health, everything else. I couldn't envisage giving up work. No. I just couldn't. I know that you want to retire, but actually you're retiring. You're retiring to do something else and start doing other things and loads of other projects, and you'll never stop. But I don't ever envisage now. I could have done 5 or 6 years ago.
Yes.
But I don't ever envisage giving up work.
No, and you shouldn't, because that wisdom that we, as you say, we've come through the worst things, and that wisdom that you get, it's really important for us to be able to help and support the next generation of women to hopefully get to the point that we're at now and get through all the difficult things they're going to face in their lives. Not just women, men as well. But, you know, the benefits of having post-menopausal women in the workplace are huge.
Yeah.
You know, we've got with life experience that you can't teach. So I think it's so much better for the workplace to be able to support. And, you know, we'll talk about this in future podcasts with people that are experts in this area as well. But, you know, to support women through the menopause, to get the benefits of having post-menopausal women in their workplace, because they're huge.
Yeah.
I
think that is the main thing, that element of not losing the life experience and professional experience that a lot of us have, and it could have been in years past that it would have been just easy to give it up.
Yeah.
And probably I was at a point of doing that.
Well, had you not got the medication,
I wouldn't have been able to do it.
I
wouldn't have been able to carry on. And to be frank, I'd probably have we would have been having a conversation about whether or not I was able to do my job, because I just couldn't.
Yeah, well, I can remember you being very...
difficult.
No, not difficult. But you were a nervous wreck, really.
Yeah.
And you were very unconfident in your abilities to do anything.
Yeah.
And you were forgetting things and getting yourself worked up about it, understandably so, because if you're forgetting things, it does make you... It's difficult to do a job if you can't remember things. But I think now, well, you're amazing. Obviously, you know, you've become a partner in the last year. So you know, in your mid-50s, you've reached a point in your career that you know you probably never thought you would do again. I know you've been a partner in the past, which is amazing, and a testament to, thank God, the fact that somebody, whoever it was, recognised that study that said HRT was bad for you wasn't right.
Yeah.
So thank goodness for them. Anyway, I think we need to stop here.
I need to go to the door.
Oh yes, we need a comfort break.
I do need the ladies.
And then we'll have
we've got a guest, I think.
Yeah.
We'll stop now.
Yes, thanks.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to the Hot Flush Lawyers podcast. Please be sure to follow and share this podcast and join in the conversation on our socials. We look forward to sharing our next episode with you very soon.